What's up, guys? Mr. Perfect Cell back here with another video, and today I have a little special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Me, Dark Knight, very good friend of Cell. We've been going back and forth since I want to say at least 2020. Probably a bit farther than that.
Yeah. Remember back in fucking the Dragon Ball Online Generation server.
Yeah, we would argue about Kid Buu and Super Buu. Yeah, I had a lot of bad takes back then.
Oh yeah.
But it's alright now.
So there's a certain problem that's made increasingly apparent that does not go away in the Dragon Ball community, and that is the wanking of a certain character.
I almost got.
Yeah, Beerus. So for some reason, people just think, oh, Beerus, well, he hasn't been stated to have been surpassed, so he hasn't been surpassed, which is a lie, by the way, but so I did a poll on if Beerus has been surpassed in the anime, and I specified the anime, and 67% of them voted no. Dark, what's your input on this?
So I think I see the reason why so many people have this little fanboy thing for Beerus. It's because obviously before Super, Dragon Ball Z was gone for a very long time, and the way to introduce Beerus into the show was with this big bad how no one can overpower him. And then even when they gave Goku this new god power, we find out later on that obviously Beerus was holding back. So that's why people try to lean towards this ideology, this narrative that since Beerus was holding back one time, that means he can't be surpassed unless we see it on screen his full power, which funny enough we actually do see in the anime, but we'll talk about that later in the video. But yeah, it's just a lot of just weird wanking for Beerus, since that beginning of the Dragon Ball Super, create this real strong little infestation of Beerus fanboys. And for the manga, it's a different story because obviously now you can argue Beerus got stronger with Ultra Ego and how all that works and stuff like that. But for the anime, there's really just really no excuse because there's definitely a lot of things that show that Beerus has been surpassed.
Yeah, there's a whole list of characters we have lined up to explain how many people just fodderized Beerus. I might even put a little counter in the corner. But yeah, the first line of characters we have up are from the Tournament of Power, and since Dark specializes in Tournament of Power scaling, I'll leave that up to you.
Upon Goku asking Whis if they should be worried of the other universes, Whis informs them of a rumor where a mortal has surpassed their own destroyer, and this destroyer is even stronger than Beerus. With later context from the later episodes, we know that this destroyer was being referred to as Belmod, the destroyer of Universe 11. The contention that most people have is what Beerus says right after about it being an arm wrestling match. But Beerus doesn't really refute what Whis says, he more so just states that he just lost an arm wrestling match. People like to say that arm wrestling is a lifting strength thing, but all physical stats correlate in Dragon Ball, and people that now class you one physical stat, they most likely outscale you in all stats except for rare occasions like Grade 3 Trunks. But for the most part, we see that the more you lift in Dragon Ball, the stronger you are. For example, on King Kai's planet, Goku has to transform into Super Saiyan to lift heavier weight that he could not lift in his base form. Not to mention when characters are relative, they'll quite literally push their body weight onto each other and both of them will stay in place. A good example of this is Goku versus Majin and Vegeta, where they're both pushing both their arms against each other and neither of them can move. And the same thing, you even see it in Vegeta versus Broly, where Vegeta is actually initially relative to Broly and they're both interlocking their hands and one can't push the others. So for what we know, Belmod is for sure stronger than Beerus, but for reasons I'm going to talk about later, with Jiren, both are still relative to one another. Now, unlike the gap between Belmod and Beerus, Jiren is just far above the Cat Destroyer. The Gods of Destruction have a couple statements being described as a singular state and or realm of power. Whis mentions it as a singular state of power in episode 109 and 110, and then it's mentioned again later on episode 129 by Vegeta when he tells Goku to step over the state of the gods, which is a statement I will be going over later on. But the point is that all of these Gods of Destruction are in a singular state of power or around this certain range, so if they're all around this very certain range of power, then that means none of them are too far off from one another, which would make all of the gods' destruction relative. This narrative is further supported by how every time we see them fight on screen, they are always relative. You have Beerus versus Champa fighting twice, both of them being relative, and then you have Beerus and Cotella's tussle on the stands, and that was relative. And then you even have the 3 destroyers that are fighting in Tournament Power Arena to like show off against Zeno, and even that's relative. So Belmod should just be relative to all these other destroyers. So Belmod, who's relative to all these other gods of destruction, he looks at his angel when he's first talking about Jiren and tells him that Jiren is a being who would never lose, no matter who he's up against. And when they say who he's up against, like no matter who, they quite literally zoom in on Belmod. And obviously for Belmod to be saying this, he would have to be including himself, otherwise that'd be really fucking silly for Belmod to be hyping Jiren this much. Which would also mean that Belmod thinks he has no chance in the fucking world to beat Jiren. And if there's no relativity between him and Jiren, but Belmod's relative to all the other gods of destruction, that means Jiren is just far above all the other gods of destruction. And then this is even more supported and backed up by the fact that there are like so many guides that state that Jiren's either on the level of a god destruction or he's above it. So Jiren would just basically like low to note if any god destruction on their neck, like slam them on the ground, just shatter their spine, including Beerus. And keep in mind, this is all base Jiren, by the way. Like none of this is referring to the even stronger Limit Breaker Jiren. Like that would just be even more overkill. This is all base Jiren. So if base Jiren surpasses Beerus, then obviously so does Silver UI Goku as he beat the fuck out of him. But to the shock of a lot of you, even Omen 3 Goku already surpasses Beerus. Goku and Vegeta have already witnessed Beerus' full power during that baseball episode when he was going all out against Champa. So both of them know how strong Beerus is. And then Vegeta gives a speech to Omen 3 Goku saying that in order to defeat Jiren, he needs to step over the state of the gods, obviously referring to the gods of destruction. But the thing is, for that statement to work, Vegeta would have to be referencing Beerus and Champa's full power, since that is the only god destruction power he has sensed, which would mean that Jiren that was beating up Goku around that time had to be bare minimum Beerus level. But the thing is, Omen 3 Goku and Jiren both power up numerous times after that Vegeta statement. As a matter of fact, Goku powers up right after Vegeta gives that speech, and so does Jiren, which would make both of them unquantifiably stronger than Beerus even before Goku masters UI. And to substantiate a bit further, Jiren feels the need to use all his might in order to end Omen 3 Goku, the same power that we talked about with just negative to God's destruction. And you're not allowed to kill the tournament power, so Omen 3 Goku would have to scale to full power base Jiren, just maybe be like a tad bit weaker. And obviously, of course, Goku gets way stronger than MUI, with like different guides stating that he surpassed the gods of destruction. So yes, even Omen 3 Goku would slap around Beerus, let alone his silver hair variant.
I now believe it's time for me to tag in, and what better way to continue this than with characters from the next part of the story, Dragon Ball Super Broly. With our first character from that saga being, well, Broly. Now, there are quite a few arguments you can give for Broly to get him above Beerus, and a really easy, well, not easy, but a really simple argument is just to say Broly is stronger than Jiren, as there's some promotion material and guides that call Broly the strongest enemy. There's actually a lot of them, but of course, there are counter arguments you can use to debunk those statements, and Broly versus Jiren by itself is a very debatable topic, so I will not be giving my opinion on that, as it 100% deserves its own video. But even when disregarding that, there are still two ways you can compare Broly to Beerus, and either method results in Broly just being stronger. The most obvious one would be using the statement Goku makes towards Broly that he is probably stronger than Beerus. Now, some people might try to debunk this by saying Goku has never seen Beerus' full power, or can't sense it, or whatever, but Goku actually has witnessed Beerus' full power, as in the baseball episode. Beerus and Champa end up getting into a brawl where they damage each other and make each other bleed. And I highly doubt Beerus would just let himself get beat up by Champa, considering how competitive those two are. And as for Goku not being able to sense Beerus' full power, in the Tournament of Power we literally see Goku commenting on Toppo's God of Destruction energy, so that argument doesn't really work, and also Goku has sensed God Chi on more than one occasion. There also does exist a statement by one of the producers where he says that Goku in the Broly movie is approaching the level of the Gods of Destruction, which may suggest that even Broly in just regular Super Saiyan would just slap up Beerus, as Goku himself states that there's nothing him and Vegeta can do against that Broly, which would include them teaming up on him using Blue Kaioken and Blue Evolution. But considering Goku only thinks Broly is stronger than Beerus in Legendary Super Saiyan, and the fact that in Dragon Ball Super Superhero, Goku still acts like that he hasn't surpassed Beerus, this argument probably isn't the best, but regardless, Broly is stronger than Beerus either way. And of course, if Broly is stronger than Beerus, then obviously Gogeta Blue would be as well, considering he beat up that Broly. So any of the arguments I mentioned earlier would apply to him as well, including arguing Broly is stronger than Jiren, although Gogeta does have a few extra statements going for him, like being called the ultimate trump card alongside Vegito, possibly scaling him above Ultra Instinct Goku, but like I said before, it's a very debatable topic that I'm not giving my opinion on just yet. Next up, of course, we have Gohan Beast from the recent movie Dragon Ball Super Superhero. Now, superhero scaling is very controversial and often does seem contradictory a lot of the time, but one thing that is consistent is that Gohan at the end of the movie becomes the strongest warrior, as there is actually a lot of promotion material and statements from Toriyama directly calling him the strongest warrior, making him above the likes of Broly, which would also put him above Beerus. There are also some statements calling Beast Gohan versus Cell Max the strongest battle in history, or the strongest battle movie, which may even put him above Gogeta Blue, Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku, and Jiren. But no matter what, I do think it's safe to say he at least scales above Broly. Now, some people might try to debunk this by saying Cell Max, if he wasn't injured, would have beaten Beast Gohan, as Piccolo states that if Gamma 2 didn't weaken him, they would have never won, with Cell Max being stated weaker than Broly by Toriyama. But the issue with this argument is that you can just say that Cell Max, when uninjured, was just so strong that there simply wouldn't have been enough time for Gohan to be hyped up by Piccolo, and would have just slaughtered everyone there before he even had a chance to transform into Beast Gohan. So no, Beast Gohan is not weaker than Cell Max. However, this does lead me into Cell Max, as he is the last character worth mentioning, as the thing is with Cell Max is that he's actually stronger than Broly, as Toriyama did say if he was completed he would have beaten him. The only reason why he isn't showing power beyond Broly in the movie is because he simply just can't control his power all too well, as it was stated in the movie that Cell Max himself was actually fully completed, with the thing that was incompleted being his mind control program, which was why he was a rampaging monster. This concept of a lack of control making you weaker has been explored a few other times throughout the series, like Super Buu getting a mental nerf against Gotenks, which caused Gotenks to beat the shit out of him despite the two literally being stated evenly matched. Broly himself is also another example, as it was actually stated that if Broly could control his emotions, that he actually would have beaten Gogeta. So yeah, perfected Cell Max should be stronger than Broly, and therefore stronger than Beerus, and there really isn't anything going against it. And with that, we have reached the end of our list. I hope people finally realize why Beerus is just fucking fodder. Like,
yeah, he's just completely just dog water in the anime, but obviously with this whole like fan fest of Beerus fanboys, I'm not gonna be surprised if you see like a comment or well, more than a comment too, in your comment section.
There are gonna be
it's gonna be bad, yeah.
Yeah, but like, I mean, they just have to accept the truth, you know.
Yeah, either that or
feed them their facts.
I mean, we still have people arguing Buu-on over Kid Buu in the anime, so I mean, like it definitely gets really bad. So.
Yeah, I had a poll on that as well. Kid Buu got ratioed.
Yeah, it's just so bad. Like the ideology of these like Dragon Ball fanboys, they just don't understand it. But there's gonna be a good amount of people that I'm sure will actually be able to listen to and comprehend what we're saying, and form a good conclusion off of that, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, that's all that matters. But yeah, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching. Make sure to go subscribe to this motherfucker Dark over here. He helped a lot during the video. And Dark, do you have anything to say to the viewers?
Beerus is fodder. And if anyone else wants to hit me up with Dragon Ball ideas, I'd be more than willing to help, and I'd be willing to be on the channel again.
Alright, see you later, guys. See you in the next video. Bye.